Alright guys, welcome back to another Wise Wealth video. Today is probably the most important video of the series, supply and demand. So let's get into it. Now, first, in order to understand supply and demand, we got to understand what is supply and what is demand. So what is supply? Well, it's the amount of goods and services that a producer and seller are two interchangeable terms. They both mean essentially the same thing. But it's the amount of goods and services that a producer or seller is willing to sell at a given price. So the law of supply states that as the price of a good rises, the quantity supplied will also rise. Now, why is that? Well, think about it. You have to think about supply and demand from a company's perspective and from a consumer's perspective, right? So if you're thinking about supply, you're going to be thinking from the company's perspective. If the price of a good rises, are they going to want to make more or less of the good? Well, if the price is high, that means people are going to have to buy it at a high price. What does that mean for the company? More profits, right? So they're more inclined to make more, sell more at a higher price because they have a chance of making more profit. Pretty self-explanatory. For example, if the price of clothes rises, the producers are going to, or the company, let's say for this example, it's Hollister. Let's say the price of clothes rises. Is Hollister going to produce more clothes or less clothes? Well, if the price of clothes is high and Hollister knows people that want Hollister clothes, right? Obviously, if the price of clothes is higher, they're going to make more because they have a chance of making more profits, right? Because people are going to be buying the clothes for more money. Now, on a graph, you can see this as a supply curve. A supply curve is basically just an upward sloping line that can be correlated with a quantity on the x-axis and a price on the y-axis. The higher the price, the higher the quantity. So let's look at a supply graph. So here you can see x-axis is quantity and y-axis is price, right? So this is the supply slope. So how do we see the amount? How do we see how price and quantity are correlated? Well, let's say we pick a quantity. Let's say 5 shirts is right here, right? Let's say where my cursor is, this is 5. Well, what is going to be the price of those, right? So we got 5 shirts. You just go straight up, and wherever it hits on the supply curve, you go left, and this will be the correlating price. So as quantity is greater, you go up, you can see price is higher. So these are directly correlated. A higher quantity equals a higher price equals a higher quantity. For supply, you're going to be looking at price, right? Because the higher the price, the more they're going to produce. Now, what is demand? Well, also pretty self-explanatory. It's how much a good or service a consumer or buyer, also two interchangeable terms, is willing to buy at a given price. So it's basically how much a person or a business wants something at a given price, right? And the law of demand states as the price of a good goes up, the demand for that good goes down. So this is not the same as supply. Now, why is this? It's because people want to pay the least amount possible, right? So if you see a shirt for $60, you're going to say, wow, that's very expensive. Now, if the shirt is $10, you're going to say, well, that's a great deal. I'm going to buy the shirt, right? So as the price of a good goes down, people are going to want to buy more. As the price of a good goes up, people are going to want to buy less. So essentially, that's all it is. So like I said, price of clothes goes up, people will probably buy less clothes. Price of clothes goes down, people will probably buy more clothes. And you can see this label on the graph. It's the same concept. It's usually shown as a downward sloping line. So supply is upward, demand is downward, right? The x-axis represents quantity, and the y-axis represents price. So exactly the same axes as the supply graph. As the price falls, the quantity demanded tends to go up. So let's look at this on a graph. So you can see the supply curve was upward sloping, right? And the demand curve is now the exact opposite. So what does this mean? When price is high, sorry guys, when price is high, let's say price is $60, what's going to be the quantity demanded, right? This is going to be the quantity demanded. How many shirts do they want? So if the price is $60, let's say, here's where my cursor is $60, you go right. Now we intersect at the demand curve, and you go straight down to the quantity. Let's say this is 5. So if the price is $60, only 5 shirts are going to be demanded. Now if the price is $10, you go all the way to the right, where it intersects with the demand curve, and you go straight down to quantity. Let's say this is 25. So if the price is $10, 25 shirts will be demanded. If the price is $60, only 5 shirts will be demanded. That makes sense? So as price is high, quantity demanded is very low, right? Yes, the slope is high, but that's because the quantity on the x-axis is low, the price is high. So the quantity demanded is low, the price is high. The price is low, the quantity demanded is high. Now, how are supply and demand correlated? How can we use supply and use demand to predict things, right? Well, supply and demand are directly correlated with price and quantity. As you saw on the graph, the point where the supply curve and the demand curve intersect is called the market equilibrium or the equilibrium point, same thing. And this is the price at which consumers and producers meet at an agreement at what price and quantity they're going to buy and sell at, right? So at equilibrium, the market is in balance, and there's no shortage or surplus of goods. Now we'll go over shortage and surplus and equilibrium on a graph in the next slide. But if the price is above equilibrium, that means there's a surplus, which means there's too many goods and not enough buyers. Or in other words, supply is greater than demand, right? Suppliers want to supply more because they can get more money, but the buyers don't want to buy it because it's too expensive. Now, if the price is below equilibrium, there's a shortage, which means there's too few goods for too many buyers. Or in other words, demand is greater than supply, which means the demand for a good is a lot, but the price is not enough where the suppliers want to sell it because they're not going to be making enough profit, right? So let's look at this on the graph. So here we're looking at a shortage. So what do we see? Upward sloping is supply, downward sloping is demand. So if we look at quantity first, right, we can see you take price, or sorry, let's look at price first. You take price, and this is where the price is. This is where the price is set at. Now you draw a line all the way across, and now where does it intersect on the supply curve? Here, right? So point A is the price point on the supply curve, and point B is the price point on the demand curve. Now what do we see here? Well, if the price is set at this P1 level, on the supply curve, we're only going to be producing this amount, right? However, if this is the price at P1 level, the quantity demanded is going to be much greater than the quantity supplied. So what does this lead to? A market shortage, right? Because the quantity demanded is at Q2 because the price is cheap. However, the quantity supplied is at Q1 because it's not a high enough price for the suppliers to want to produce. Now, here is the ideal situation where we want to buy and sell. This is where the price and the quantity both intersect at the supply and demand curve. So you can see the demand curve, supply curve, price is set right here. You go all the way over, you draw a line over, and it goes right through both of them, right in the middle. And now when we see that, where do we go down? Right here. So right here, the quantity demanded matches the price. So buyers would pay this price, and the suppliers would sell the good for this price. So everyone's happy in this situation. Now, if we look at a surplus, it's the opposite of a shortage. What do we see? The price level is high, right? So first we have a low price level, which means demand, people want more, suppliers don't want to sell. Then we have an ideal price level. Then we have a high price level, what's a high price level? Well, if this is the demand curve, if green is the demand curve, and red is the supply curve, then if high price level, you draw a line over, and this is going to be the quantity demanded. You can see Q1 for demand, and this is going to be the quantity supplied, Q2. So if it's a high price level, people don't want to buy, but suppliers want to sell. So what does this mean? We have more supply than demand. That's essentially all it is, guys. You look at the price level and you draw a straight line across, and then you find where it intersects, and you match it up with the quantity. Now here's some examples. First, we have gas prices. I'm sure we're all familiar with this. So when oil prices rise globally, what's going to happen to the gas? The cost of gas is going to go up. Now, what is this going to do? Decrease the demand for gas, but suppliers might still provide the same amount, which could lead to a potential surplus if the demand is less than the supply, right? Another popular example is concert tickets. If a popular band is coming to town, the demand for the tickets will increase, right? But if the price is set too low, the tickets might sell out quickly because a lot of people want a good deal on the tickets. They want to buy the tickets, right? And that will create a shortage. If the price is too high, fewer people might buy tickets, which lead to a surplus. Now we have 5 shifters of supply and 5 shifters of demand. First, we're going to do the supply. We have cost of input is one shifter, which is like raw materials, labor, fuel, etc. to run the business. And as these are more expensive, what's going to happen? It's going to be less supply, As they're less expensive, more supply. It's pretty self-explanatory. Technological advancements is the second one. This is new tech, new computers, new AI, new machines to enable them to produce more within their business because it makes it more efficient. Number three is we have the number of sellers, right? So as there's more sellers within the market, there's going to be more supply of a product. As there are less sellers, there's going to be less supply of a product. Number four is we have government policies and regulations. So how does this affect supply? Well, we have taxes, subsidies, regulations, tariffs, whatever, and for instance, a higher tax or stricter regulations is going to make it harder to supply more, whereas a subsidy or a tax break is going to make it easier to supply more. Sorry, I meant supply less with higher taxes or stricter regulations. But anyways, number five, we have expectations of future prices. So what is this? If a supplier expects the prices in the future to rise or fall, then they might adjust their own prices to combat that. Now, what are the five shifts of demand? Well, one is consumer income. This is pretty also self-explanatory. Higher income. Well, if you have more money, you're going to buy more, right? Or lower income, you're going to buy less. Taste and preferences. So basically people's desires, people want different things. People want to do different whatever. They want to buy whatever they want. And for instance, if a good is hot right now, like very popular, then demand will probably increase so people could, fit in with that. For three, we have the price of related goods. So a substitute and a complement. Substitute goods and complement goods. Now, a substitute good is a good that can replace each other, right? So, for instance, we have, let me think. We have, um, let's say we have a hamburger and a hot dog, right? They're both pretty similar goods. Now, if the price and demand are inversely correlated, if the price for one good rises, the demand for its substitute is going to increase, right? So if people want a hot dog or a hamburger, it doesn't matter, and they're substitutes, right? You could have either or. If the price for hamburger rises, are people going on to buy hamburgers or hot dogs? Hot dogs, right? So that's essentially what substitutes are. A complementary good is the opposite of that. It's two goods that complement each other. So for instance, peanut butter and jelly, right? Peanut butter jelly sandwich, whatever. If the price of one rises, the demand for its complement is going to decrease. So if the price for peanut butter rises and people want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, are they going to buy the peanut butter? Probably not because it's too expensive. So in addition, if they're not buying the peanut butter for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, are they also going to buy the jelly? No, because nobody wants a jelly sandwich. But if the price of peanut butter decreases, they might be more inclined to buy them both together, peanut butter and jelly, because they complement each other. Now, number four is expectation of future prices, similar to suppliers. If consumers expect price to be higher or lower in the future, they might buy more or less currently. So, for example, if there's a sale in the future, they may buy less now and wait to buy in the future. And the final one is populations or demographics. An increase in population will probably lead to greater demand, and a decrease in population will probably lead to less demand. All these concepts are pretty self-explanatory as long as just take time and actually think about it in a logic way. Now, how do we see this on charts, right? So as demand increases, you're going to move the whole demand curve to the right. And as demand decreases, you're going to move the whole demand curve to the left. As supply increases, you're going to move the whole demand curve to the right. And as supply decreases, you're going to move the whole demand curve to the left, or supply curve to the left. Now, this is very important. The only way the curve moves is if one of the five shifters is in play. A change in price does not indicate a curve move. A change in price will just change a point along the curve. So, for example, actually, let's go back. Let's go back to the. I want to show you guys the. So let's go to this. Right, we're looking at the equilibrium chart. So a change in price is not going to shift the supply curve left or right, and it's not going to shift the demand curve left or right. It's only going to shift the price level. So if we have an increase in price, the price level is going to go up, and we're just going to see this. We're just going to see a line across here, just like this picture over here. It's not going to change where the curve is anywhere on the graph. It's just changing the price level. Now that's extremely important to know because a lot of people probably get confused with that. So if we look at shifters, first let's look at this. So we can see D1 and S1 is the original supply and demand curve. Now, if D1 increases, the new equilibrium price is going to be, you can see it intersecting right, or sorry, this is the original. Now if supply, so where's the original equilibrium price? We have D1, the light blue curve, and S1 is the orange curve. So the original equilibrium price is going to be P1 and Q1. Now if we have demand shifting right, so one of the 5 shifters led to an increase in demand shifting right, and sorry, I don't know, blanking. So we have a demand shifting right. So now let's just ignore the S2. We're just looking at D1, D2, and S1. So D2 is the demand shift that shifted right. Now where's the new equilibrium level? Well, it would be right here, right? Because it's the original supply, and we're ignoring S2. It would be right here. Now it looks like S2 also shifted right. So what happens? The new equilibrium level is right here where D2 and S2 meet. So we have the new equilibrium level is at price level 2 and quantity 2. So you can see it's quantity of food and price of food. Now here's a more simple one. So we can see supply stays the same, but there's a shift increase in demand, right? So the original equilibrium level, price level 1 and quantity level 1, is at the original supply and the original demand. But if there's a shift in demand, not a shift in the price, a shift in demand, you can see the whole demand curve shifts, and the new equilibrium level is where the new demand and the original supply meet. Now it's important to know this is not a shift in price level. Even though price level goes up, it's not a shift in price level. If it was a shift in price level, only this line, this horizontal line, would move up. Nothing would happen with demand. Now it's honestly, if you think about this chart, if you just really take time and look at it and analyze it, it's really not that complicated. I know it looks like a lot, but it's really self-explanatory. So essentially, you can see S0, D0, and E0 is all the original. So S0 is this curve, D0 is this curve, and E0 is this curve. So this is the original equilibrium level. Now you can see a shift left in supply, which means a decrease in the supply curve is going to shift left, right? Now, where's the next equilibrium point? If supply shifts left, right here, to the original demand line. Now, if demand also shifts left, where's going to be the demand curve? I mean, where's going to be the equilibrium curve when supply and demand both shift? Well, E3, right? Because this is going to be the new supply curve, S1, and the new demand curve, D1. Now, if demand just shifts, where's going to be the new supply level? Or, sorry, equilibrium point? Well, it's going to be E2, right? Because supply didn't shift and demand did. Now, that's all it is, guys. You just take this and you find the intersection point. Now, this is essentially the basics of supply and demand. It's extremely important. It works in every single market. It's literally how the world moves. It's how the world works. If you understand this, you understand economics pretty much. So this is probably the most important video I've made. If you guys need clarity on anything, or if you want to learn more, just DM me or leave a comment, and I'll do my best to make another video. Other than that, I hope you guys learned something from this, and thank you guys for watching.